It's real nice to meet you. My name's Sam, by the way.
I'm Will. I forgot. I guess I forgot to say my name.
Yeah, how's it going, man? Nice to see you.
It's good. It's good.
And this is Tury,
Hi, Will. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
and we do Friends with You together. But this is really amazing. We're excited to get into it. So
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah,
What happened to your arm?
Um, the other day I was driving an e-scooter, and
Oh,
being the intellectual scientist that I was, the e-scooter advertised that it goes 25 miles an hour. So I had to, test it and see if it
yeah, you gotta
actually
test that.
went that fast. And so I drove down my driveway and I was just staring at the speedometer, and the speed went 21, 22, all the way to 25. And as soon as it hit 25, I looked up, and there's a little like railing that goes into some tan bark in my driveway because there's like trees past it. And I smashed into the railing and flipped over the handlebars of the e-scooter and
Oh,
ripped a
nice.
tendon in my hand.
Ooh, that's shitty.
that sucks.
So the short story is a failed science experiment.
Or you never know where that takes you, you know? We're firm believers that like everything happens, like takes you to that next thing. So that little
Yeah,
adventure that you did, like just brings you into, this interview with that hurt thing, and we'll see where we go from here. So this
exactly.
is like, so this is an internship. So let's get to work. What do you want to
Okay.
talk about? So happy to have you at our studio. I mean, we're like, we're always like learning. So like maybe this internship could be like kind of a mixture. Like you tell us like what you're working on and thinking about, and we'll tell you like what we're about and what we do and stuff. So could be like a give
Great.
and take type thing.
Let's get started then.
Okay.
Welcome to the 1 Hour Intern. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Los Angeles-based fine art collective Friends with You, which consists of Samuel Borkson and Arturo Sandoval III, and works to cultivate moments of spiritual awareness, powerful, joyful interactions, and positivity through their art. It's a pleasure to meet with you guys. Thanks for the time.
Same here, man. Nice
Yeah,
to meet
nice to
you.
meet you.
So, during COVID and quarantine and all the uncertainty in the world right now, what have you guys been working on recently?
It's been like a really interesting time for us. Like we've been like having a lot of like really like deep and thoughtful conversations about, what is happening in the world and what the world needs. And I think that, we felt, what this whole time has like made really really loud to us, that like isolation is really like one of the biggest problems of our world, is like thinking that we are separate or different or alone from each other, and that's basically what we developed Friends with You like almost like 20 years ago now. Started working on this project as like a means to create connectivity, and that's like probably like one of the most important and like beautiful things that I think that we have. And I think that even as we have experienced this crazy thing together, we're now like in a place where we do realize like how important those connections are, like in our relationships in our family and our loved ones. And it only amplifies like the importance of like each of those ideas, and that directly impacts and affects all the work that we make, so we've been working on a ton of stuff. I'll continue to like tell you about that. We both will, but that's really like what started Friends with You, was like this idea that the whole universe is friends with you. Like it's there to aid you, and abet you in like all the things that you sow in your life, and how do we work that into like a community setting where we're really impacting each other and making these important rays of light that inspire and change ourselves and the entire garden that is our family and creative community.
And in a world where people can't go and see your collections live, how have you been still bringing that positivity and connectivity through art?
I mean, one of the things that has been able to like keep going for us is really to develop like this really long kind of like far-fetched kind of projects that we have been working on for the past, I guess, like 6 7 8 years ago, when we started doing some projects that moved into like the mass media kind of like space, things that are commonly known as like intellectual property or animations or things for TV or mass media, which is very much something that's important to us because it was always our mission to communicate our ideas and philosophy with as many people as possible. So that has been a little bit of a focus in this COVID time because it has allowed us to have the space to really like zero in and try to like triangulate and put together those projects that it takes a lot of other moving parts and other people. And since we are COVID and we have had the time and everyone's in their house, it has been actually easier to be able to get some of those meetings set up and like really like get people to come together and get behind those ideas. So that has been something that we have capitalized on since we are kind of like not able to do our bigger kind of like immersive like share experiences, which is a lot of the other work that we do. But yeah, it has been interesting. And like most things, like you just have to move on your feet and like pivot quickly, and we have spent a lot of time kind of developing those projects, which we have like 3 or 4 projects that we have been developing in that space.
And how have you remained motivated to keep working on these projects when you could kind of sit back, relax because no one is there to see what you're working on right now?
Yeah, we really feel like that we're you know, kind of part of nature, like as there's people putting like negative and divisive propaganda into the world and separating us like more and more from each other, we feel that like there's kind of nothing stopping like our will to create the work that does unify people, that shows each other like our differences, like and we consider these like great artworks, even though that they will be television shows and businesses. They're some of the most important like artworks that we think can happen in this time that we're alive, and it's like almost cultural engineering as an art form into really like the mass and greater world. It's like how are we not at like this Star Trek model yet, where we're all working together as one unified Earth, celebrating our differences, learning like from nature and preserving like our world, like so each of our each of our pieces, whether it's a television show, a sculpture, a painting, or an installation, is all about like aiding humans in their connection to each other and their planet and love for like each beautiful thing that we see in the world, like our brains are so limited still, but I feel that we are, and you being like a younger generation, like will even have more of a capacity for like learning, because I think that humans are turning closer and closer to like um the singularity where we are like AI ourselves, and AI works with our human brains and brings us to this like next level where we can like really as single people greatly impact the world. So like by making these television shows that will reach hundreds of millions of young brains, we're doing this idea that is positive propaganda, and it's like we stay inspired because we've also diversified our art practice from making physical things, which is like sculptures and paintings and works with our hands, which keeps like our body motivated, but then thinking as deep into like the sky, into the universe as possible as artists, because there's no real limits to like what you can create. And finding partners and pushing these things like deeper and deeper, that is things that are needed for society, so it's like we're trying to like break every mold that's ever been as far as like what we do for our work. Like we're not artists, like we are artists, but we're also like feeling that we are, ex, ex, exploring and great explorers of this new connective devices that really like um, work for the benefit of humans and our planet.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do live in a world with a lot of negativity and division. How do you maintain that positive mindset and that positive focus in all your work with so much, turmoil and struggle so visible?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're smart in saying that it is like so visible, but I mean, you have to like and I think that you're in an age that it is good to start looking at those things like that, but it really isn't like the fact. The fact is that the world isn't getting like darker, and it isn't like getting any worse by any matrix of any like actual data, and 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 that's why I think there's something that I think that we have like inept in us, like it's something that's natural to us, that we are optimistic and we want to see the brighter side, not per se because it's something that we are just like Sharpie, but we think that that is almost like our own coping mechanism to our own like darkness and our own kind of like human condition. It's like you could either take it one way or the other. It's like you look like the dark or look at the light. And I feel like that what you're sensing and what you have brought up already like a couple of times, where the world is in this dark place and it's this and it's that. I feel like that I challenge that in a multitude of ways. I think that it is a device that's being used to capitalize on our attention, but the truth is that it isn't. There's just no proof to any of that. There's absolutely like no matrix that is showing that we are moving towards that and that we are in a worse place than anything. Just throw any question out. Like I will show you a graph and someone that will see it in a much different way. Like infant mortality, education, health, like everything is moving up, 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 up. The progress that we've made alone in the last 200 years is it's hard to even comprehend. 200 years ago, like a woman couldn't like vote, it couldn't do like anything, couldn't own her own property. It was her property of her husband. Like the changes that have happened in culture in general, it's very hard for us to sense in the time that we're moving. Also, since we are in a time where we are consuming media in such a rapid speed, that it's hard for a lot of people to like look past just the flash headline that's being like put out as almost like attention bait, and look past that and actually get the data of what's going on. And it's important to actually look at that, because the decisions that have to be made and the progress that needs to happen, it has to be at that deeper level, not just at the surface kind of level that it is what we're experiencing. This like kind of like media, like kind of like grab for our amygdala and like the things that like grab us. So yeah, I challenge you to look and see it like that. And I think that that's kind of like our project is about making a space in culture and in to one's day or in one's week or whenever they interact with our work or our experiences, where they do have like a glimmer of like that optimism that also like our world like frowns upon. Art is really made up of being like very like thoughtful and like putting forward all the negative things and all the negative feelings that are about the emotional like the human condition. But we're like, okay, also there's a tool to be used here about being like like motivated, and also being like and the opposite of that also motivates you. Like people want to like go outside of like the muck so they do progress, but there is so much of that we wanted to compensate and bring a different light to that space.
Yeah. You're definitely right that we need to be more optimistic and go past the surface. I completely agree. So before you guys were this positivity focused art group, you were individuals. Tury, you were in Miami, but you're from Havana, Cuba. The year's 1993. And Sam, you're from Plantation, Florida. The year's 1979. You're both 17, different year. Oh, sorry, 1996. My apologies. You're you're both 17. It's different years, but what's life like for both of you?
Just like being a teenager, like in Florida.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, when I was 17, I wasn't in Florida anymore. I had been like removed from my houses, my dad's house or my mom's house that I was living at, because I was like pretty gangster, you know. Like I grew up like doing all the wrong things, like you know, fighting, drugs, stealing, getting arrested, like everything bullshit, and like not even like really being in my house. So I was out of my house by the time I was 14. Going to like reform school to like a boarding school, which is actually pretty cool. And it was definitely like an experience. Like I had to grow up and be like an adult very, very quick, you know, like I was faced with like really, really intense like learning and like proximity danger, you know, so just like trying to stay alive to like being in being brought from like Florida where there's all kinds of fucked up kids to all these different schools where it was all the fucked up kids from all over the country, like just, you know, trying to like learn their shit and stuff, you know. And I think that it was like really like making art was like used, like I started using that like as a healing tool, you know. And that was like really, you know, what was like a huge like turnaround just for me personally, like in my life, was like, you know, one of the teachers at like this third school that I went to, like this third high school I went to, was like, no one had used the art stuff, and they're like, you can go and do whatever you want, like in this space. And I think that that was like really like a place for me to like shine and explore, and you know, it gave me this relentlessness. No, like I think that that was like if I was to give any advice to like young kids, you know, it's like be relentless in your passion is like the way to do it. Like I had countless teachers telling me that like drawing or making art, like or doing any of that stuff is like very difficult, which it is. But it's like I feel that art is so vast now that like whatever your passion is and whatever you like you care for is like follow that to like the nth, because nobody really knows. It's like reality is like this completely like erroneous like construct that we're trying to like assemble, and it falls apart, and people get like so confused because we can barely keep up with like this reality that we're trying to perceive. I just made making my own reality like the good of it. And I think that like I had gotten to such like dark spots with like not even speaking to any of my family except for like my sister and stuff. Like at that moment, that 17th year was like so dark and so like painful for me, that I think that that was probably where some of this art form was born, like inside of me, is like this compassion for humans, this compassion almost for myself for being at the bottom, you know, the most hurt, depraved, sad, and disconnected from all my family and myself. Like to find like that art could connect and like make people feel certain ways and be perceived and tell my own honest story was like the small truth that I uncovered. That was like the beautiful seed like inside myself that I could be like, oh, okay, it is okay and it's beautiful, you know. And I guess that's my 17-year-old moment. I could go on for more, but I'll let Tootie get into his.
17. I think I was like just starting to like really get acquainted with this country to some degrees. Like I had only been here for like 3 years, so I was like getting more comfortable with the language and just kind of like going through the process of understanding what this country is about to some degrees, but not really because I was like so young and under the nurturing kind of like hand of my parents. So it was it was an interesting time, but it was like also a time where I was about to go to college, and I went to a school that was very much like male. It was like a boys only school, and and I was not like really like athletic or any of that stuff. I didn't really like have a mastery of the language yet, uh, and I still don't. But in that ecosystem, it made me also like focus on the things that I was interested in. So since I didn't have like a big social kind of like high school experience, it let me have a lot of time for myself, and I really started like cultivating a lot of things that ended up being very useful for me in the future. So I was like obsessed with like the computer. My dad had gotten like an Apple, so it was like the beginning of my love affair with like really being able to like work in that device and the first like 3D programs were coming out, like animation programs and like all this like mastery of like this tool. Like I think that was like what was really happening at, specifically at that age that you said 17. But it was a very interesting time in my life for sure.
Yeah. I want to talk about both. You both mentioned such interesting and different paths. So I'll go specifically to Sam first and say, you talked about being in such a negative place. And a lot of people will have kind of different negative rock bottom spots. And you used art to get out of yours. How did you really push yourself to use art and move from rock bottom to this kind of positivity focused person? Because that's such a big jump and such a hard step to take.
Yeah, it is. It's like a ton of work. It's like so crazy. It really is like therapy, and like even like our relationship as two artists working together, like I'm so grateful for that, because like we've had each other like almost like as a mirror, and Tudy being like a great dude and brother and friend, like was able to show me like like really like awesome things. And when I was able to start reconnecting with my family, like and see them differently aside from like the pain, I think that I was like taking myself out of like the like why is the world fucking pummeling me, to being like I have to pummel the world, but I have to pummel it with like love. I have to be like as kind and as sweet like as I possibly can, because this shit like doesn't work. And I think that that's what friends with you like even like meant, because like I didn't start it like with Tootie many years after I was 17. Like I kind of started out when I was like 21. He was like 24 or 25. Like it was like very young. Like we started this pathway to like the stuff that we're doing now. And I think that it was like really like going head first, no fear of death or anything, that like I was gonna like make a good impact like on myself and the people around me. And if I couldn't like learn to yet love myself, I was gonna like love outwardly and like use that as a tool to be like my reflecting. So it's like people I put around me, the art that I make around me is like smiling and cute and kind to me, like all these objects. I'll give that to like other people and have let that be their own amulet. So it's like if you put that like around your house, like a little cute like smiling cloud, like this is kind of like one of our iconic like little figure things. If you have this looking at you and like being like your like like even like a tiny bit like in your life, I was like that could be like a psycho magic that can really help you. And even that term psycho magic comes from Alejandro Jodorowsky, a great, inspiration of mine and ours. And I think it was, consuming art that was kind and beautiful, like Miyazaki. I feel like seeing like My Neighbor Totoro and like those films that were like animistic and spiritual in a new way, that was like the unification of man with each other and earth, was like was able to start seeing like the beauty, like the pure miraculous beauty that is like around us all the time, was like what was able to like really help me turn those tables of like being like a victim being pummeled by life, because that's going to happen your whole life. Like you'll be pummeled, you will be disappointed, and you'll be hurt, and you'll be fucked over, and you won't get that love, and that girlfriend will mess up, and you know what I'm saying, like everything will happen. But the beauty in all those moments is what we're here for. It's like if you were just to win the game and get everything you wanted, that wouldn't be fun at all. You wouldn't have any excitement or anything. It's like the challenge to be better, the challenge to help others, the challenge to like lift up the good things and like the loving things, to like look at like a flower or a tree properly, like take mushrooms. I would tell kids to take mushrooms to cure their depression and go look at nature and commune with like what they are, which is like plants, and like look at them and see how beautiful they are. And if you can see like how beautiful a flower is just sitting there, then like think of all the cool things you can do. You could be nice to somebody. You can actually buy some food, bring it to somebody and make them like smile and stuff. You can make a sculpture or an installation that brings people together. And that's kind of like where we even like started connecting, was like how do we make these environments and these experiences that we want to feel, like how do we bring them to like other people, and doing this kind of experiential like art like concept was one of the first things that started getting us like noticed, and we were just doing that for ourselves and each other to like give this moments and stuff. But it can be so simple, like the little change. It's just like deciding how Tury was saying, like your perspective of the day. Like, how do I see like this water like in this jug? Well, I've had this water in this jug for a while, so it tastes kind of bad. But I'm so thirsty, so I'm gonna like drink the jug, even though like it's like a little bit gross. Like whatever, it's like all the perspective and how do we like look at each tiny thing and each word, each action, each thing, like approaching that with love is like really like the key to like finding like the love and having that like bless you is you like blessing with like love. It's like such like a magnetic and magical thing, I feel, you know. And I'm still learning on that. So there's nothing switched around. Yeah, I'm not like positive all the time or so happy or I got to this happy place. I'm like many years later and I'm still trying to be like the most loving and accepting of myself. And I see that that all works, you know, like every little tiny bit of that works, you know?
And for you, earlier you'd mentioned your sister, so maybe her or maybe other people. Were there any people that smiled at you like your cloud kind of figure now smiles at you that really helped
Yeah,
you?
for sure. Yeah, I mean, my sister, Tootie, Julie, like our studio manager, like our like now it's like a fucking beautiful garden. I have like the best friends like I've ever had in my life. I have the best relationship with my mom, my dad, like all my family like is now back in like my special like heart place because like I've regrown that stuff. But at that time when I was like 17 and like there was nothing smiling at me. There was nothing like at all. There was like I was in like a world of like trying not to get like you know like severely like like fucked up like in a fight or some shit. Like that was me. I was like fight or flight shit. Like I was friends with like the gangsterist like people that would like help protect me and I would protect them like as like a friendship, right? Like there was no friends. It was like more honor and loyalty type of thing, which is also beautiful, but it was like still like you know just like I work. But I don't dislike or sad for any of those past things, you know, that ever happened. And my sister, yeah, of course, she was like such like a guiding like light of like just always accepting me and always like trying to help me even from her college job like sending me like a few $100 when I had like no money to like even do anything at all and like just cute it's like I'm super grateful for all that stuff weird stuff that happened to like give me the perspective now of like really like where I am, what I can achieve and still what I can be, which I still see myself like you. Like I see myself as like a blank canvas, like really still learning of like what I am and what my purpose of is and who I am, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Turi, you had a very different story, but do you feel like that same idea of people smiling at you to help you become the person you are now is just as important to you?
Yeah, I feel like I had to some degrees uh, a different kind of like situation that led me to some of the same kind of like yearnings. I had like some people around me that use that positive projection of themselves into the world as a way to actually like overcome the adversity. So I saw that next to me to some degrees. My dad, when he was young, was very much like that, and it was part of his character. Even though he did have like out of like maturing or just life, you want one does wean out of like one characteristic of now. But as I was growing up, he had very much like that kind of attitude, and one of my grandfathers was very much the embodiment of that. He was just like pure light to everyone. And I saw like the effects that that had to some degrees on how you're able to almost like manipulate the matrix because it is infectious to be optimistic and positive and like like the light of the party and like and I saw that as a mannerism and as a way of like approaching life that was very effective. So I kind of like, like as I got more and more comfortable in this country and understanding like how to like navigate and start going to college and all that stuff, it was kind of like part of my character that I was like bright and upbeat and like always like the person that wanted to like jump, head first into the mosh pit. Like, and I think that like those kinds of things are interesting, and they serve a purpose when you don't have other like tool sets to like help you like be at peace with yourself or your own insecurities. And it is something that just speaking specifically about that characteristic, I think that that is something that is interested me, just even looking like in hindsight now, like as into like how I became the person that I am becoming.
Yeah.
you know
And you say looking specifically at that characteristic, were there any other important characteristics or mindsets that shaped your kind of focus, your now focus on positivity and yeah.
Creating, I feel like that I grew up in a very like kind of like artistic kind of like household. Like my dad is like a very accomplished like musician, and my mom is very much like was back in Cuba. She was involved with like she was like drafted with her best friend. I was involved with the actual like structuring of the like architecture on industrial design school of like Cuba. So it was like, those kinds of people were always like around us. And I think that when you grow up in that kind of like um, household, like that was, it wasn't just like what it was value, but it was the only thing that I could see myself. Like I wanted to compete at that same like arena, even though I didn't want to do it specifically like the same things that my dad was doing per se. It was like, okay, like when he challenged me at a very young age, he was just like, like I think like when you are a young adult and you're asking like your elders around you to value you, you know, I think that the question was put to me also into like, why should I value you? Like, what do you have to show to the world and to me for me to value you? And that was the thing that came naturally. Like to me, it was like, okay, making art is the thing that makes sense to me, and it's the only way that I can express myself. I think that also, like in hindsight, like the actual limitations of not being able to speak English and read in English play into that, because I was always a lot better at like drawing or painting or like doing an animation or doing like a 3D model of something that I ever was at expressing myself in other way. So this, there's like those weird like little forks in the road that are hard to like, diagnose for someone, but they do shape you, and like visually expressing myself is a lot. I'm a lot more comfortable doing that than I am with maybe like writing or speaking about this concept. So it became a way of of me communicating to the people around me, to even to like my friends. And then at the beginning when you're making art, you're not really making it for anyone but yourself, and then like the immediate like circle that you have around you, and that's how it came out.
So you answered my next question, which was going to be how did, moving to America from Cuba, how did you deal with that adversity? So I'll ask you specifically, were there any values you developed living in Cuba that you don't see in America that you feel are very important?
Oh man, so many. I actually feel like that is the biggest like blessing that I had, was to have like that different like growing up, like, and the values that were projected in Cuba were very different than the American like values. and
Yeah.
and I feel like that has been a blessing for a multitude of reasons. And there was like there's a lot of things that like I feel that influence like like how we see the world that were like embedded at that point. I feel like that growing in a system that did level everyone down, that's the weird part. It doesn't level people up, but levels everyone down, uh, does create a more playing level playing field as into like your value in society. So it's kind of strange. It's like the people that were like really cool in my neighborhood weren't the people that were like the richest. It was like the guy across the street that was an amazing like, spear like fisherman. It was like almost like the human value became more human as opposed to just how you were able to like shenanigan your way up the ladder. So I think that that is a core like thing that I grew up with. That was kind of that has like shaped me, and I feel that also like how close you are to nature in a country like that is something that's very that has shaped me. Like it was like there was not a lot of like TV available or like playgrounds to go to, so we were like in the ocean or climbing trees or like that was like our playground. I feel like that
Yeah.
is kind of like a very interesting like key differentiator of growing up in a country where I had the freedom to be like that and have that kind of like childhood. There's that. There's also, I grew up with like a mother that had like a cross kind of like um, belief system where she like adhered to like Catholic or like belief system, but also like a Yoruba and like I was like Afro Cuban kind of like religion. So I think having like that weird dichotomy of religion made also for a very interesting upbringing. That it's something that has shaped me for sure.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, there's a trillion things that are so corely like different from growing up in a country like that than in America that I think it's amazing. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just I feel blessed that I had like that break, and I feel like that coming to America is I'm still learning about the differences and like really like still even though like I assumed for like a long time that I was just American and I feel like I am an American, but I feel that it's still like being shown to me like all the time, like this weird differences, and it makes me look at now as I have more time to think about these questions. It makes me like really want to like learn more about really like the dynamics that make this country like tick or not. That I feel like that people that were born here maybe just take them for granted. So, anyways,
So the
long
combinations
answer.
of your different identities has been really valuable in the person that you are.
I feel so like big time. Yeah, I feel like it is an interesting thing to have. And also like it was such like a weird time to also move to this country because at 14 you're like really just starting to
Yeah.
become like your like all the dynamics of becoming like your own identity and shaping your own identity were kind of like put in pause to some degrees at that time because I did shift and I landed in this new country. So a lot of those weird things are things that are a blessing and also like have like hurt like my own development and like has been things that have been challenging to me and are interesting in that respect.
Yeah. So it's a good segue into kind of a midpoint of our show where I like to do a segment called the coffee break, which instead of talking serious about your life, we kind of go without without a chronological focus, and you guys can just share a story that's a funny moment in your life rather than something serious. Does anything in particular come to mind?
I mean, every day is like a funny, fun journey. Like we're totally like that, like make the most fun out of every day. And there's so much like strange things that comes like up with that. Not as many like PG ones like that I can like think of like immediately. But there's like definitely like an adventure weekly. Let me think of. Oh, I have a really like funny one that like involves both of us. Um,
We put the E that says explicit so that the stories don't have to be PG.
okay, yeah. I mean,
Um,
well then I can. Well, which
Whatever
one?
you're comfortable sharing. I'm totally kidding.
No, I like that though. It's just like a lot of funny stuff happens, but this one in particular was like pretty great. It was like we were in Copenhagen like years ago, and we had been working like all night, like on an installation, like days straight. on it, you know? And it was like really, really fun, really, really like taxing, but like crazy work, us making this installation. And like in the middle of the night, like probably like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, like I had like more energy, and Tudy was like passing out at the installation like site. And I'm like, I'm gonna finish like doing this mural because I was like already like all charged up and like going for it. And this lift that we had, this European lift, like was literally like a one like prong like scissor lift that was like falling apart, broken, like the craziest thing ever. Like we should not have been driving it. We could have definitely like died on it. So like we're doing all this stuff. I'm like painting the mural like half like, you know, stunned and like half like living. And like like I don't know like how like it had happened or something, but like I had gotten like tangled like in all like these cables, and as I moved the like scissor lift like to go to the right, it had knocked down like all these like paint buckets that had been tied around these cables, pulling like these paint buckets. So it made like 4 or 5 giant paint buckets were now like going on the ground, and I couldn't drive to like get it down, and the thing was like stuck for me to like not get down. So I like wake up to I'm like, bro. He wakes up and it's like literally like a paint swamp on the floor, me up on this like crazy scissor lift with like paint going over the cables. It was probably like 12 years ago, but like literally like the biggest like mess that you can like ever imagine was just like coating like this like crazy floor, you know? It was like I don't know, something like really, really silly. I don't know how funny it is, but at the time it was like definitely like a really like major fuck up that like we fixed up before like anybody had like known about it, you know?
I feel like that could have been part of the installation. You know, the paint splattered over the floor.
I mean, it could have, but it was like in the cables, and like there was like it was like it was a crazy mess. It ended up being like turning out really beautiful, like the installation, like how it was meant to be and all good. But that was just like it was like really like an unsurmountable like thing like at the time, like at 3 o'clock in the morning to fix. But you know, it's like tiny in the mix of things. It's just one that came to mind. Do you have like
Yeah.
any like really like funny things?
I mean, the one that comes to mind like right away for me is the time that I beat Sam at racquetball when
That
we
is
were
not even true.
when
That's
we
kind of messed up.
when we
Also,
were. This is just for the record, and I let you speak, so now I have to tell my story from my
this is not
side.
like a presidential debate that where one can speak and not the other
Really,
one.
can you help? Like,
You're
please.
gonna have him be
Shut
Chris
up, man.
Wallace?
Shut
Us?
up, man.
I feel like you have to play
Uh,
again.
yeah. We were doing a project for Nike, and they were like, you guys want to, after we like done having the meetings or whatever, they were like, do you guys want to use some of our facilities? They have like this crazy fucking campus with like everything, every court like available that you could ever imagine, whatever. And we were playing a lot of racquetball at that time, and we were like, can we use the racquetball courts? So they were like, yeah, sure. So we go to like the Nike store, like that's on campus, get all decked out, brand new everything,
Yeah, like Nike
everything,
drip it, drip all over.
sweatband, like all the Nike, brand new everything. So we show up to this like racquetball court, looking like we're like in a serious like championship like kind of like level to play, and I proceeded to like beat Sam, and he couldn't take the loss, so he was like started getting like very physical with me and trying to tackle me.
What? This is like completely the opposite story that had happened.
Well, like there was no one there, so whoever gets to tell the story tells it however he
It's true.
wants.
It's true. It's true.
And uh, well,
It did
needless.
get physical. It was like we were on like almost like fist fighting. It was like because there's like the whole Nike town is like watching us. It's like we're it's like crazy. It's like a whole thing.
It's the finals of the U.S. Open, pretty much.
Pretty much between us, like and like we have this crazy competition because we're playing all the time, and then on the Nike field with the Nike gear, and I spanked Tudy.
And
But
the funny thing is that, like, yeah, as you can see, that the funny thing is that, like, I mean, that must have been like 15 years ago. Still, Sam can come to terms with the fact that I'm just, better at like, racquetball, which is okay.
we'll just leave it as a mystery. We won't let you know like what really happened. But that was like crazy. That was really fun.
And that's why we're not in stand-up comedy, and we do something else. But what's the
So
next segment?
Do you got a
back
funny?
to
Do you have a coffee? Well, do you have a coffee break story for us? You got to share us something from your life.
Something funny.
I told you my funny story. My science research project of driving the e-scooter and crashing and
That
ripping
was a
a
good one.
ligament in my hand.
That was pretty great. That is a good one. I mean, it's not
But
that
my
funny,
friends and
but
I play
yeah, it is funny.
pickleball. My friends and I play
Pickleball.
pickleball, and we have the same. It's kind of racquetball. It's like a short court tennis. I don't know. It's a weird
Oh
game.
yeah, I have sseen that. I have seen that. I know what you're talking about now. It's
But
like the paddles are almost like wooden paddles, also like they're like with the perforated holes,
yeah,
or no? Yeah, yeah,
yes, I think so.
yeah.
Um,
And
but it gets just as intense in our senior yearbooks. We've both written, you know, you think you can beat me, maybe someday you'll be able to, in short stories. So that's in both of our senior yearbooks, saying that we beat the other person every time.
Oh, that's good. Hell yeah.
I think the funny thing about the story of the racquetball thing hasn't happened yet, which is I just found out that there's this service that this like dude is doing in England where like people could hire him to come and say things at your funeral for you. So for instance, like this dude got hired, comes to a funeral of whatever this guy, and in the middle of the funeral, stand up. He's like, "Excuse me, everyone, can I get everyone's attention?" And he looks at everyone. He's like, "Michael, who's the guy that just died's best friend." He's like, "Michael, Patrick wanted you to know that he always knew that you had sex with his wife. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna hire someone to come at my funeral and just say, he's like, Tury wanted everyone to know that he did beat Sam at the racquetball in Nike
That
in
is
like
good.
2005, and
Yeah.
he couldn't take the thing. So maybe like the funny thing just hasn't happened yet.
Well, we'll see who
Can,
dies
can I
first.
can I be the one who
The other
gets to
one
do
gets
it?
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you.
Yeah.
You know what? Tell us this because I feel like this is like not a true internship. But like, what are you trying to do? Like, what is your passion? Can we help you? Like,
Yeah.
so like, you're asking us tons of questions. I know it helps probably listeners and stuff. And maybe it's not good to having your own personal story, but maybe it is good. Like, what's really like? What are you striving to do? Like, what's your dream?
You know, as
Still
of now,
developing.
I couldn't tell you. Part of this project is, learning about different paths and kind of sometimes I get some stress like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. And a lot of people do. And it's kind of scary to be like, oh, I'm not sure which path I'll take. And
Yeah.
being able to sit with people and hear how they got to where they are kind of gives me an answer that I don't really need to know right now,
Yeah,
and kind of helps me develop which way I'm going to go, make that decision.
that's cool. So that's kind of like part of this whole internship project is you really learning and thinking about like what it is and what you can bring to certain things. And like that's I think that's smart. I think that a lot of people really get stuck in like their identity based like idea of themselves. I think that that's like one of the biggest problems. Like that I think that young kids now in the internet age where they develop like these avatars of who they are online, they forget to develop themselves or listen to themselves or fail as themselves. So I think that
Yep.
that's like really like important to actually like be open to that and be like exploring that. I think that's cool.
So, with that in mind, we are running out of time. I don't want to take a bunch of your time. So, I'll segue into a different segment called the PowerPoints, which is if someone was to just listen to 5 minutes of this conversation and they could take, or was to listen to the whole conversation and they could take away three things, what would, in your mind, from your life experience, what would those three takeaways be?
Hmm.
I guess like the first one would be like have no fear. Like no matter what's gonna happen, like it's gonna happen. Like even if you are the most successful like singer, you're gonna fail at singing like plenty of times. So it's like go, like Like that's been like the single best thing that's like brought like me and my career and like what I'm doing to like this space is like no fear. Even when like the chips are down, you have no money and like you have no idea how to like proceed forward, like proceed forward. And like there's nothing bad that happens like going forward. Even though all the bad things will happen. Like it's inevitable. It's like this great like beautiful thing, you know? And be like the second thing would be like be patient, you know. So first one's like really like no fear, perseverance. Second one's like be patient, really allow that learning to happen and unlearning to happen, you know. I think that those are like two huge things, like as I think they're essential for being like where we are as artists. And maybe the third thing is like do good. Like doing good for the world comes back to you, you know? Like give to the world. Give all your energy or whatever you're the best at, which this is like an incredible thing you're even doing, like show hosting like this thing and doing this in this format shows you that maybe your medium is having these conversations. You know, you seem to handle yourself like very well at this, you know? So you are doing that, you know, you're doing good. I think that you're crossing all three of those things off. But those would be my top three.
Yeah. Tury, would you add, adapt, or say another three?
Yeah, I think that those are all like great um, strengths and pivotal things to keep in mind for sure that Sam like touched on. If I had to add some other ones would be, you know, learn to like master your own like anxieties and kind of like the shortfalls of like your own like weakness almost because like we are expected and there's like this almost like false expectations of what one's effectiveness can be in the world and there's almost like this like always irreconcilable kind of like deficit that one feels like it's not being enough and it's I think by really acknowledging to your own self that you are doing your best and start kind of getting into a mechanics of really like mastering your own psyche and I think that that is easier said than done and it's not like that you have to master by controlling it but just know how to like tinker with it to help you do your best so like things like meditating or doing yoga or like things that help you become more um, you know flexible with kind of like this to some degrees what Sam was saying is that life is going to throw to you all those like curveballs so it's almost like you're working out but it's just working out it's not just a physical thing but you could also make it a mental thing and I
Yeah.
think that like that would be one thing I think that the other thing is it's really learn how to be your own like teacher to some degrees like you have to like get into the dynamics of teaching yourself because like there's the world is it's moving at such like a crazy speed that there's no way of like just acquiring like one set of knowledge and being like okay this is the thing that I'm going to hold on to for the rest of my life or my career and it is going to be the thing that I either monetize or that I am value add in society. I think that the world that we live in, you're much better at being autodidactic because you always have to be like learning, and the people that do well are always learning and progressing in their own either set of tools or in their own careers or in their own field by wanting to learn more as opposed to like just okay I put in my 8 years I got this master degree and then that's it I just have to show up it doesn't work like that anymore that's just not the world that we're in. So being autodidactic and being comfortable with teaching yourself what you want to like know, I think is another like really good like pivotal kind of like quality to have these days. And I think the third one would be to just like I think value like all the people that are around you like infinitely more than if I was to even like look in hindsight, I think that like the people that have been around us like and have helped us like make our careers not just at a personal level but just people that have been allies of ours I think that I will have even like done more to like cherish and nurture those relationships because they are built on that like there's no way of doing this alone that idea of like the lone wolf, like person that is like, the oil man that finds the oil drill and like makes a fortune out of it. That's just an old concept. So I think learning to master a whole village of people that are supporting you at a personal level and an intellectual level and at a professional level, and how all of that works together could really make for a really good like system and glue to help you really like conquer like more difficult, kind of like more complex like situations. And I think that like if I had to like encourage, that would be like, value your family. They're there always to help you, and like the people and the friends around you that you choose to treat like family. Those are like the disciples. Those are the first people that are going to come and help you, and that will join you in your venture and like really like champion your ideas like forward.
Yeah. So, with those 6 important ideas in mind, and the fact that you guys have reached a pinnacle of success in the art world, how do you define success now?
I think that it's like really like has to do with like your own perspective, like of like where that is, like and what you've like accomplished. For us, like I feel that we as we hit like different milestones, I start to like look at what success is like differently. And I think for a lot of people, it's like when you first start like making money, or you first like make money to like have your studio and have it like exactly the way you want it. But I think that it constantly shifts as you hit like different like mile markers or like milestones like in your career. I think that like, you know, looking at myself and where we're at, like I'm like constantly like blown away by what we've achieved and where we're at and what we have like right now. That even like the huge things that we're building that will be coming out in like a couple of years, like these new television shows or businesses or things that we're doing, like that will continue to amplify what we're doing. Will give us more money and maybe more ability to do more projects, and that's what we want more money for, is like to continue helping the world. But I think to just like in life, looking at yourself with like you know positivity and more love than the hateful mind that is like always trying to say you're not enough or you need more, or like pushing the things that you don't have in your life. If that is like good and content while you're still innovating and changing and swerving through life, I think that is like true success. It's like the inner balance of like your own self and what you feel that you're giving like into the world. And like I think that that is really like where it lies, and until like you feel that inside your own self, no amount of money, like girlfriends, or what I'm saying, like any other pursuits that like you're going for, like will ever soothe that, and I've seen like the opposite of that. Like I've seen like people since I moved to LA that are like very wealthy and like could have anything they want, and they're never satisfied because like they haven't like found the value and love like of themselves. And I think that that is like a successful place, no matter like where you're at, like in the zeitgeist of culture or the community. It's really like an internal, personal like judgment. It's the only you can decide type of thing. Like everybody can call you the goat, and people can love you like 1 second and they can like tear you down and hate you like the next. Like it can't ever exist only for like the public to decide, because it's always like an illusion, that base of perception. So it's like has to rely on your own personal perception of like what your success is. And me personally, like I'm like so grateful to be here right now. I'm grateful to even be talking to you, and be here in like the studio with Tury, and like have this studio and all the amazing things that we're working on. I think that that's like an incredible success from like how I see it. But it's
Yeah.
I think it's each person, like really has to come down to what you are looking for and what's important to you.
Yeah, totally. Turi, would you add anything or
I think
yeah,
I tend to agree a lot with that framework, that it really is something that has to be personal to you. And I feel like that's I think that's kind of some of the things that we're trying to do with our work is almost like redefine like success, like
Yeah.
what in a grander like scheme of things is like, like what the idea of success might be. It might just be like having like a tight knit community that you feel like part of, or I think that is part of like the the real issues and our grander issues in our culture is how we actually do define success. And I
Yeah.
feel like that with some of the concepts that we're trying to get off the ground and like really like impact culture with are addressing that. I feel like success for each individual should be more seen as something that is core to their value system as opposed to like a general idea and that of what success could be. I feel like that's definitely very interesting to see from that point. And I feel like that I don't think that anyone like put that to me at your age in those terms. It was always like, how are you going to be successful in comparison to the people around you that are successful, or this milestones of success? And I feel like that no one really like pointed to me and being like, maybe that's not really success. Like that guy that's driving that awesome Porsche, like down the road, maybe he's just like looking for the next bridge to like drive the Porsche out of because he hasn't had a genuine like human interaction with someone in the past like 5 years. Like, so it's like, how do we define that? It's really like I feel like that is an interesting thing to flip this on you and be like, hey, what kind of success are you asking us about?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
fair.
like
Yeah.
what do you feel like is success to you?
I mean, you guys had said, or Tori said, you guys are kind of working to redefine success. And that's, I guess, another part of this project is showing that success is not just monetary gains or kind of fame, but it's really an idea that's open to interpretation. When I reach out to guests, that's something that's in my synopsis. It's like, we're really discussing how you've become successful, and that's what stories define that are the stories that you feel like define that because you have whatever definition you have. And I want to show that, there are other things beyond money, fame, power that make someone successful because everyone is successful in their own way.
Hmm.
That's cool. That's great that you have that perspective. You're looking at that at it like that.
Man, this is a
Well,
super interesting project that you're doing, man. I think that I want to give you like some proper kudos for doing something that is so insightful into like even like your like own trajectory. I think this it's just really kind of like clever way of hearing people that in your point of view are to some degrees like successful and how they have navigated their own careers and lives, and for you to turn that into an actual like byproduct which is value in today's culture, which is this sharing of like media. I think it's in its own like manner successful to some degrees already. So good job,
yeah.
man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, guys, I don't want to take up any more of your time. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for letting me learn
we're
from you.
hungry. No, thank you, man. Thanks
Yeah,
for being
man.
interested in us.
Yeah, and thank
Yeah.
you for all your insightful questions and everything. This is awesome. Good luck with the project and everything from here on out.
And
Thank
feel
you.
free to reach out, like as you're transversing the universe in this crazy
Thank
lifetime,
you.
man. Like, reach out at any point and just like, I feel like that people don't do that enough. Like, just reach out to like the people that they are into or the stuff that they're doing to, and be like, hey, what do you think about doing? I'm thinking of doing X. Like, just at any point, just feel free to run stuff by us moving
Yeah.
forward as
Thank
like
you.
your X, as your X internship guys.